Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another podcast of Talk to Rami. This is Rami, your host. Today is a special day for me because I'm sitting here with my dear friend Omarr Cantu.
Can do.
Can
Yeah, we
can
can
do.
go
I
with it.
call it can do
Yeah,
because you can
that's
do
good.
everything,
Yeah,
not can do.
yeah, I get that.
You know,
Yeah,
I did
yeah.
it
That makes
purposely.
sense. That makes sense.
No, it's Omar's can do, but I call it can do because he can do anything.
Cool. I
Hey,
like that. I'll take
welcome
it.
to the show, man. Welcome to the show. We
Hey,
were planning to do this for a long time
I know it's great that we finally actually got to sit down and make it happen. So
and talk about our stories and
yeah,
why you started a podcast, why you're a storyteller,
yeah,
producer, director, name it. And you recently have a baby, right?
yeah.
How old is it?
14 months.
14 months.
Yeah,
How
she's.
is that working?
Oh, it's the best, man. It's the best.
Really? It
Yeah.
changed a lot?
Oh man, you know, I'm 40. I'm about to be
Are
41
you
this
serious? You
year.
don't look like 40.
Yeah. Exfoliate, moisturizer, that kind of thing. But no, I feel it. My bones are creaking and stuff. And then, especially at this age, I mean, it's difficult to chase her around the house, but I'm late to the game, but is what I like to say. But it's been great, man.
I know you
She's
starting your podcast. All this new changes are coming.
yeah.
Why
Yeah.
did you start a podcast? First of all, what is the name of the podcast? I know, but listeners they want to know.
Yeah, so it's called The Learning Man.
Learning
The
Man.
Learning Man podcast, and that's LURN.
Okay.
So kind of like the Burning Man, but answering the burning questions.
I'm
But
always gonna go to the
learning.
Burning Man. I never got a chance.
Yeah, I really want to go too. We should go. Let's
Yeah.
do it. We should do it next year.
But what made you to start a podcast? Because I know you're a storyteller,
Yeah.
amazing storyteller, and you doing a lot of production from the video, audio, and
Yeah.
producing, directing, all that stuff. What made you to start a podcast?
There was a couple different things. It's and I realize that everybody kind of goes through these chapters in life where you new things come up and you're learning different things and you try to you go through a period of self-reflection and you try to figure out what's next and what can I do to be the best or be a better version of myself, right? And for me, I was 39, about to be 40, and I had a whole bunch of these major kind of life experiences that all kind of happened within that year, right? In this year, I mean, it's still happening to me. I had my baby girl, and that was a huge, as it is for most men, it was a huge moment in my life. And then right after, actually on the way to the hospital, the day we were going to be admitted into the hospital, I got a call, and the studio that I was working for at the time shuttered. They ran out of money. So I got the call and they were like, hey, we're closing down the studio. Unfortunately, we're going to have to let you and the entire team go. And I'm like, dude, I'm about to go on 3 weeks of paternity leave. Like,
Wow.
I'm literally on the way to the hospital to have this baby, and I'm losing my job. And so I was like, you know what? Can I cuss on this?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I can't think about not having a job right now because I got to go and be
You are on your way to
yeah,
hospital. Oh
I got
my
to be
God.
supportive for my partner, and so that happened, and so we had the baby, and then started eventually I took another job and then got laid off from that job because it was a startup and they ran out of money, and it was just like one thing after another, right? So I got laid off twice within that year. I had a baby girl during the period that my dad was also terminally ill in the hospital. He eventually passed in September. And then immediately thereafter, like a month later, my dog got, and I know that's, it's like the cliche like country song, right? There's a tear in my beer, I lost my dog kind of thing. But seriously, like, I mean, he was my best friend. He was like that soulmate dog, that soulmate canine that, that you take everywhere, and he's just the perfect dog. And yeah, he stopped walking, and his very last walk was, we took him out, we dressed him up as well as my baby girl Mia, to go out for trick or treating, and that was his last walk, and we brought him home, and one thing led to another, and he became paralyzed from the waist down, and we had to a
Wow.
week later we had to put him down. It was a inoperable tumor that lodged in his
You
back.
would
So
keep taking punches.
yeah, so it all just kind of happened like one after another, and then I'm like, I just lost my dad. And me and him never had like the best relationship, but it also kind of takes like an emotional and it's emotionally impactful, because you just feel kind of like lost, right? You don't feel grounded, you don't feel rooted anymore. And I'd been through all these different situations, and I felt like there wasn't a whole lot of I felt like wasn't comfortable talking to somebody else, and seeking out that male role model, right? That fatherly figure, kind of like guidance voice. And it just made me realize, like, I can't be the only one that's going through that. And it made me realize, like, you know, I can't, there's got to be other people that are going through similar situations, maybe not all in the same year, within the same couple months, but and don't feel comfortable, going to somebody to be able to talk to about that. And so it got me thinking, well, there's a lot of topics that we as men don't feel comfortable talking about.
You're right. Amen to that.
There's a lot of topics that we don't feel comfortable opening up about to other men and having conversations. We feel like we are on an island. We feel like that if we express and we voice these opinions, we voice these conflicts, these internal conflicts, that it makes us less of a man. And we are all going through things from, identity to masculinity to expressing our feminine energy to substance abuse to different types of dependencies, and we don't feel comfortable talking and all that. And so it kind of sparked something inside of me that made me want to capture these stories, to talk to other men and have man-to-man conversations about the topics that we were afraid to talk about. And so that was kind of like the whole idea behind the Learning Man. Yeah, I mean, it was kind of something that I kind of flirted with about 2 years ago. I was working on a documentary, and never really finished it. I mean, I got like 7 interviews in the can, got one of them out there and into the world, and I just kind of like left that project aside. And that kind of like evolved with the experiences that I was having over the last year or so, and it kind of just turned into a podcast.
You say a lot of us, as you said, especially men, they don't want to talk about their pain and suffering.
Yeah.
I don't know if comes from human vulnerability, because we all, we don't want to be vulnerable, because as soon as you said, we open our mouth and then
Yeah.
we talk about our pain and what we went through and
Yeah.
everything else, we're going to be vulnerable, and some people take advantage of it and some don't. But,
Yeah.
but when you come out of that, I think you feel much better and much lighter
Yeah.
when you find the right
for
person
sure.
to talk to.
For sure. But here's the thing, Rami, is that the biggest issue is that it's like you said that it was something that we kind of like learned along the way,
Yeah.
or that we naturally as people don't feel comfortable expressing those or sharing those situations. But the truth is that it's not just it's not people. It really is just men. It's men that these are learned behaviors that we've learned from our fathers, and they've learned from their fathers. It's a generational upbringing that we do not feel comfortable in talking about these issues, because society tells us that it makes us less of a man, that it is not masculine to talk about
Mm.
issues that trouble us, because at the end of the day, society looks at us as men, and it is the manly thing to do to, if you're hurt, rub dirt in it, right? Rub dirt in it, you know,
Don't show it.
don't show it. Yeah, don't show it, because our jobs as men is simply to bring home the bacon,
Yeah.
is to provide for the families, to shut up, suck it up, and keep going. And we have our ego wrapped around what we can offer as providers, right? And that's something that goes back, probably to the,
Many years ago.
dawn of time, right? And unfortunately, I mean, in this, especially in this country, I mean, we have men that are struggling. We have young men that are struggling with the identity issues. We have veterans that are coming back with severe PTSD that aren't talking about that, and which has led to significant numbers of men that are seeking out help from the VA that aren't getting it. And we have, suicide rates that are soaring through the roof, because these men they're not able to talk about those issues, and they're not getting the help that they need.
I think because they're not welcome either. If they find a source that they can trust and they can speak up, or they can share their emotions
Right.
and their feelings, and most of this stuff would be solved. But as you said, unfortunately, is not there.
Right.
And because we all have pain. I had it. PTSD. I went through that and everything else. But the moment that you put everything on the table and find a person that you trust, and you speaking about your pain and
Mm-hmm.
suffering, and then you helping yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and nobody's going to come and save you. Nobody's going to come and
Right.
help you. You got to think about yourself. That's what the mental illnesses are very high right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's more than a heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
Like the suicide, all this shooting and everything. Yes, as you said, it comes from the past, because
Mm-hmm.
we learn as a man that, you know, take it,
Yeah,
suck it up, buttercup. It's just
exactly.
is like that. But if you say something, I agree with you. It shows that you're weak. It's not weak.
But it's not weakness.
It's not weakness. I know. I don't know why people they think that's weakness. If I tell you that as a friend that, hey, this is the pain that I'm have right now.
Right.
What do you think? Maybe you have some guidance. Maybe you have some stories. Maybe you have
Right.
some solutions that might help me. By
Right.
not discussing it or not sharing it, I think the damage it would be much higher.
Right. Yeah. And I think, to your point though, I don't even I don't even fully agree that it should be just somebody that you confide in, right? I think that men should just be authentic, right? If Be completely vulnerable, completely unbiased. And if I'm having an issue, right, and let's say we know each other, but we're not like that. Like, we're
Yeah.
not like deep friends or nothing. Maybe over a bottle of whiskey, but
Yeah.
we're not going to open up that much. I think there's more strength in just coming to it from a place of a place of vulnerability, and being able to share, like, not only just to somebody, but to anyone, right? So like, if somebody asks me a question, like, I'm gonna be very truthful, I'm gonna be very honest. I don't play politics very well. I don't play
Me
politics
either.
in the
Yeah.
office well. I don't play, I don't I'm not the type of person that takes information and tries to use it against people. I try to be an open ear and trying to be as honest as possible, and try to absorb as much of that as, whatever somebody wants to talk to me about. Try to absorb it and try to tell those stories. And that's what everything is about with the podcast. It's about vulnerability. It's about attacking the status quo and attacking the stereotypes and talking about them in a very open, putting everything out on the table and just discussing, you know, what it is,
But the
right?
biggest part is to build the trust.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
how we're going to build that trust? That's my question is how we're going to build that trust, because in these days nobody trusts anybody,
Mhm.
and that's sad.
Yeah.
And I'm sure if something happened that people they don't trust each other, but at the end of the day, I think there are still good people out there that
Oh,
you
absolutely.
can talk and trust and discuss your issues. It
Yeah.
shouldn't be just your psychologist or
Right.
therapist. It can be simply your friend,
Yeah,
your
absolutely.
wife, your brother, your cousin, whoever you trust.
Right.
I think this, especially this generation or prior, I don't know, it's very confusing how our father raised us. Then now, I don't know. Sometimes it's very hard to
Right.
understand. It's very hard to understand because
Yeah.
I had 100% transparent conversation with my dad. Always,
Mhm.
always. He's 85. He's still alive, but and right now, I try to do with my kids, but the whole thing changed. It's
How
not like
so?
it's kids these days, they're confused
Okay.
because they don't have any like a role model.
Mhm.
They don't have any role model. Look at the influence of social media, the influence of everything else,
Mhm.
around them. Old days, what did I have? Bicycle, maybe a couple of very simple games
Right.
and everything else. That's all I had.
Yeah.
And the family, they had more bonding.
Mhm.
Now, due to technology, to whole society, whatever is happening, it's just everything is spread, and it's
Mhm.
much harder to control the kids. And I don't want to put them under microscope. Is it free? Is it? But it's harder. It's hard to explain, but it's much harder right now to
Mhm.
do that. To just guide your kid and say, here you go, here, because the time has changed.
Mhm.
Come on, and I'm 56 years old. 90s, 80s, 60s is not here.
Mhm.
We're in the 21st century,
Mhm.
and everything is changing. But like your father, I'm sure you had some experiences, you know, good or bad. I had it too. Everybody had it, but these days, having an honest conversation is not as easy as before.
I agree. I agree with that statement to a certain extent, but I also think that so in generations past, you were almost you might have been stuck to the town that you might be from. You might be stuck to the city that you might be from. You are in communities where everyone for the most part has the um same cultural upbringing, same they identify with the same community, right? You have tabletop discussions where knowledge may be passed down like in a
Yep.
similar household, like as you were, dinner time discussions, that type of thing. However, a lot of times when let's say you're in a family unit and your belief system is just slightly different than what your parents were, and I mean this goes on for generations, but I think that in today, social media actually has allowed people to be able to connect from all walks of life, and also understand that they somewhere out there have a tribe, and somewhere out there that is outside of their family nucleus, right? Somebody out there has a tribe, and they can understand that, that they're not alone, and that they have, you know, they can identify with somebody out there. And I think that's a beautiful thing. I think that's really important. Now, whether or not that muddies the identity issue, right? I don't know, but I think that there's something to be said. For example, so recently on Friday, I published an episode with Brian Chavez. So shout out to my buddy Brian Chavez out of LA. He is a tailor. He is a incredible fashion designer. But he comes from, his background. And one of the things, the title of the episode is "Sewing Like a Man."
I like that, sewing like a man.
And we kind of talk about how, within that industry, a lot of times it's more, back in the old days, that was a male dominant industry. At some point, most likely during World War II, the fashion and the tailor industry changed over to become a female dominated industry because all of the men left and went to war, right? And we kind of discussed about how it was, how he felt kind of navigating through that as a straight man, right? And my relationship with Brian goes back about 3 years ago, when we kind of found each other over the pandemic, and we just randomly found each other on Instagram. Our podcast was the first time we had actually talked to each other on camera.
Wow.
We just send voice notes to each other and text messages and stuff like through Instagram, just supporting each other's work and supporting each other's art. And he's Hispanic, I'm Hispanic, so we identify that way. We both come from, relatively small kind of like, communities, towns and stuff. And we have both kind of like lived the life of hard knocks to finally figure out like what, where we are supposed to be and what our passions are. And so that's a great example of like, you not finding your tribe, or you're not being able to find your community and feel acceptance, but through social media, it allows you to open up and to meet other people. So I don't know. I kind of see your point. But on the flip side, I also think that social media can be leveraged to be able
absolutely. Social
to
media
use it.
actually is a great tool. And I always tell people in my podcast that, you have a knife, you can cut a watermelon with.
Yeah.
You can, skin the orange, or you can use it as a weapon.
Right.
It's your choice. But
Absolutely.
with the old days, it was much simpler for that day, like in 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever.
It's just moving a lot faster now.
But I think the technology and everything is moving much faster than humans to digest it.
Oh, I 100% agree with that.
And I think that's the challenge. How can we digest that as we go faster and faster with the AI, with all that stuff? But as we grow, it gets more complicated. It's more choices. With the more choices, it comes with more decisions. With the more decisions, it comes a good decision or bad decision. Prior to that, like the old days, you had not too many decisions. Go to a school, go to university, go to work, be a craftsman, go to, it was simple. But now there are so many choices. Like some people even saying right now, I don't want to go to university. I can learn everything. YouTube University. They get certifications, for God's sake. And then they do, and they have the skills, and they go get a job.
Yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah, it's great. I love that. I'm not against educational. I'm not against, but it's a good skill to have.
Right.
But we have so many choices right now, especially for younger generation, to do what they love to do.
Absolutely.
But recognizing that's a different story.
Absolutely.
And that comes in the place that who you talking to, who is your mentor,
and who's gonna have who can you feel like you could confide in, and also have those open and honest conversations to be able to uncover that, right?
And I always
because
tell them to have a good mentor.
yeah, exactly.
I think
And
every
and I
young
think
person should have a mentor.
exactly. And I don't think enough young men have mentors nowadays. Because in the old days, historically, you had young men that came through the ranks that they first found an apprentice.
Yes.
They went in and they looked for somebody to mentor them, to learn the craftsmanship, to learn how to do these things. And now we've spent the last 40 to 50 years telling especially young men that blue collar jobs aren't worth shit. We've spent 50 years telling especially young men, that if they don't get a college degree, that they're not going to amount to anything. So now there's, in many of those blue collar jobs, I mean, you go through electricians,
Yep.
woodworkers, plumbers, they're all part of a mentorship program. And I think that that we need to get back to that. I think we need to get back to seeking out somebody who young men can look, being somebody who young men can look up to, that have already experienced different things that they can learn from.
Like entrepreneurship. Everybody wants to be entrepreneur these
Right.
days. I want to have my own business. I want to
Yeah.
be entrepreneur, but what are you going to do? Who are you going
Yeah.
to pick as your mentor? How hard is that?
Yeah.
It's like a craftsmanship,
Yeah.
it's hard. It requires a lot of work.
A lot of dedication. Yeah.
And you got to have a good mentor.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying, is so many choices, even for you and I.
Mm-hmm.
We're much older, but still we got some different choices.
Right.
Is every day is something new and is changing.
Right.
How we're going to adapt to these changes, that's the different story. Look at the AI.
Right.
God, dear Lord, is going so fast. So fast. Now some people, they say, oh, we're going to lose our jobs. No, it's not going to be like that.
Yeah. I mean, you still have to train the AI.
Learned,
It still has to learn. Yeah.
Okay, the farmers,
Right.
when the tractor came, everything changed.
Yeah.
They lost their jobs. No,
Yes.
they learned how to drive that thing.
Yeah. Steam engines. I mean,
Look at it. When you go back, if right now social media, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, everything else, TikTok, they're coming, or AI is coming, why can we not learn and take advantage of it in order to do our things better as a co-pilot?
Right.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that, it's a threat. It's a threat.
Mm-hmm.
Everything can be a threat. But right now, with what is going on right now, especially with our business, we're trying to take advantage of all the technology and learn it, because I'm telling you, it's going so fast.
Yeah.
You get up next morning, something else is created by somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're going to do with it, God knows.
Right.
It's totally different. It's totally different. That's what I agree with you. We should go back to old days and tell people, find somebody that you can learn from with all the tools that you have in your toolbox. Because I believe it, man. This time is a time of many, many, many opportunities.
Yeah.
I think some people will be the next billionaires with the AI.
Oh, 100%.
I think that's happening.
Yeah, for sure.
There's no doubt.
Yeah, and I think it's just going to be, and we're still going to have to figure things out. I mean, we're still going to have to figure things out in terms of, how do you train the AI? How do you get it to spit out what you want it to say, right? I just think it's an opportunity to be able to figure out how to leverage that tool, right? I think, but at the end of the day, I mean, no matter how good the AI is, it's not going to replace human interaction. It's not going to replace the human element, the stories from the experiences that we've lived, right? All it's going to do is it's just going to fill in the gaps and be able, I think it can be a tool to help us better tell our stories.
Like, I don't
Yeah,
think so. AI is going to interview your guest in the podcast and interview your guest. That would be very artificial, you
yeah,
know. But you are a storyteller. How are you going to tell somebody's a story?
right,
It's just a human connection.
right,
I don't think so. The AI is gonna, even grasp the human connection as we do on
right.
daily basis. Not in the surface, like you can
Yeah.
fill up the gaps as you said, but overall, is very hard.
I mean, for me, I'm a one man band, man. Like, so my podcast, I book it, I shoot it, I edit it, I produce it, the whole everything, right? I just I do everything on the
Wow.
podcast, okay? But I leverage the AI tools to be able to help me get there and to be able to spit out that content quickly. Everything from mastering the audio to voice transcriptions to writing the articles to spitting out different title options, show notes. All of that is all done with AI. So I think that that's what I mean is like it can be used to help us better tell those stories because it's going to make us more efficient and it's going to make us more it's going to help us essentially speed up the process, I think,
It's going to be your
from a
help. Yeah,
storytelling perspective.
it's going to be your helper. It's going to be your co-pilot, but it's
Right.
not going to do it
It's not
for you.
it's not going to replace.
It's not going to
Right.
replace. It's not going to replace. But a lot of people right now these days, they're going to be what you do.
Right.
Like they want to be a podcaster, and they don't know. I do podcasts. You do podcasts. They don't know where to start. As a
Mhm.
storyteller, as a podcaster, where do you think they should start? Because I believe everyone has a story.
Oh,
Everybody
absolutely.
can even share their stories if they think they can help a lot of people. Just tell
Absolutely.
your stories.
Yeah.
You don't even have to have a guest.
Yeah.
Just do your stories. What are your suggestions? First step.
Um reflect.
Wow.
I think the first step to starting, if you want to tell a story and if you want to share something with the world, is basically just kind of reflect and figure out what are the types of stories that you want to capture, what are the types of stories that you want to tell. That's it. And also, I think that there's also something out there. I think step one would be reflect. Step two is get over it. Okay. Step two is overcome whatever type of fear that you have that would prohibit you from telling those stories.
You had that fear?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah. One time you said, no, I'm not
Yeah.
going to do it. Or
Yeah.
what
No,
I'm
I
doing.
still have that fear. Okay? I still have that
Fear
fear.
of what? Fear of doing it or fear of acceptance?
Fear of putting something out into the world,
That
right?
that is going to grab attention or is going to grasp something.
Yeah.
Okay, I think when I started, I was like this. I had a fear of, well, what other people they're gonna think.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I got over it. Now I
Yeah.
said, I'm gonna do what I love to do. You're gonna listen. I'm not going over the likes
Right.
or messages. I just want to say what I want to say, what I have learned in life, and I want to share it with
Yeah.
other people. Maybe I can help one person. That's enough.
Right.
It was very hard. It was a very hard transition.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially, I mean, yeah, for me too. I mean, it was really difficult for me to kind of like, because I'm also not the type of person that because I think a lot of social media influencers do it simply just for the likes, just for the comments, just to put something out there, and they don't kind of like they don't they're like there's not a purpose to it. Like there's not substance, right?
But likes and followers
And
doesn't define you.
right, but to some people it does. To some people they actually, I mean, that's their currency, right? And for me, I was a little shy. I mean, like I've been in the arts. Like, my mom's a theater director. I grew up in
You've
the
been in
theater.
it, yeah.
Yeah, I've been in it forever. Put me on a stage and I'm good, right? put me on a mic, and it's very personal. It's very kind of like almost intimate, because you and I, we're having a conversation, but we know that other people, those guys, are going to be listening to us, right? So
Yeah.
it's almost like as an eavesdropping kind of like thing, right? And I think that also puts you into kind of a very intimate kind of setting where you know that there's somebody on the other side of the fourth wall, right? And I think that there's a level, for me at least, there's a level of anxiety right there of letting people in. And yeah, so that's why I say number two is just kind of get over it, man. Like, capture the stories, go out there, make something and share it. I think Gary Vaynerchuk says it great, and when he says, like, that's one of
Yeah.
his steps is get over it, like shut the fuck up and go create, basically.
Yeah. It says always and go and do it.
Yeah,
And most of the people, they want to, I don't know what is going on, but they're really into what other people thinking about them. I know a couple
right.
of them that, man, they take one shot 3, 4, 5 times to make sure, is this good? What they're gonna? I said, just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it. Who
Yeah,
cares? Just do it.
yeah,
I think we are in the business of connecting rather than like constantly creating things. Creating is good, but in the way that you have to connect
right,
with people. And what is your point of connection?
right,
When you find that out, for me is a story, for you is a story. I
right,
believe everyone has a story that they can share and change somebody's life.
right.
That's mine.
Absolutely,
It's very simple. I
absolutely.
don't care they are famous, they are Elon Musk, or is a plumber, or is an electrician, or is a painter, or
Yeah,
is an artist. We all have something to say,
yeah,
and some people we take it to the grave because we think our story doesn't worth hearing.
yeah. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't
It
matter.
doesn't. In the
For
grander scheme of things, our story doesn't matter, right?
you know, it's you just gotta say it.
But it will. I
It
mean,
will.
somebody out there, it will resonate with someone,
Of
right?
course.
Yeah.
Of course.
And that's the whole reason. That's one of the primary reasons, because at my core, I'm a historian, right? I
You
enjoy,
love
I
history.
love history. I love learning from the past. I love listening to these, the personal stories from a long time ago. And for me, the learning band it it almost serves as a temp check on men's society as we are today. And what I wanted to do is capture those stories. And sometimes I share my own story, but it's not about me. It's about the men that feel comfortable in sharing those stories, and hopefully, they can impact a young man somewhere out there.
My grandfather passed away. I didn't have so many, I didn't have a lot of interaction with him, but right now, I wish I could talk to him because I
Right,
promise you, he had so many stories that could
right,
help me to be a better man, to grow.
right,
And this is stories that will shape our lives.
right,
Story of Martin Luther King, story of, Gandhi, story of, Mother Teresa.
yeah,
Come on. It's your history, and it's a history, is a lesson
right,
that we all need to learn from. But who's gonna listen? God knows.
right,
But we do our job. We go out there. We go online. We go live. We talk.
right,
We say what we're gonna say, and if catches one person's ear, and then
right,
we made a dent. And I think we can change a lot of lives.
right. Absolutely. I mean, that's the goal, right? Is just being true to ourselves, being true to our fellow,
Because
our fellow person, and hopefully, we can make it through this all together.
because be honest with you, the worst thing in life is a regret, man.
Oh,
I'm
for
seriously.
yeah,
I don't want to have any freaking regret.
yeah.
I don't want to be in bed in my deathbed at 85.
Damn, I
Hopefully,
should have done that.
I
Yeah,
seriously gotta say I
yeah.
should have done that, or why I didn't do this, why I didn't do that. Is
Absolutely.
a regret, man. It's gonna kill us, and you don't want to do. You don't want to have a regret. You gotta do what you're gonna do,
Yeah.
and regardless of what other people thinking, do you have any regrets?
Oh man, I think we all have regrets.
Any?
Yeah, I think we all have
Something that you can
regrets.
share?
Um. Ooh. I think. Um. Hmm. Yeah, I think one of my biggest regrets is fairly recent, and it's also one of those types of things where you thought you were going to be okay with it. Like you really thought that you made peace with yourself, and you thought you were going to be okay with it, and now it's too late. I can't. Um, so for me, me and my dad have, we never saw eye to eye. Never. Like we just were two totally different personalities. He's, he was, from the ranch. Really small town in South Texas. He, was just this stubborn, hard nosed, just vulgar, just racist dude, like, I mean, he just had a lot of flaws, right? Like he was a hard ass. And I am, pretty much opposite because, I'm into the arts. I'm into, I try to, you know, I mean, shit, man, I like telling stories. Like that's what and I mean, up until like this is kind of so up until I was probably maybe like 38, like I was, I've been following this path of trying to, create art and try to tell, trying to tell stories and trying to do my thing. And, I'm been able to, be somewhat successful and make a living out of it. Even up until that point, he was still sending me job descriptions for, being a FedEx or UPS delivery driver, right? Oh, they've got great benefits. They pay really well. You need to get on with the company, be there for 30 years, get your pension, and just, that's what life is about, is the job
Like you didn't
security
like
and stuff
that?
like that. That's not me. Like I would rather make no money but be authentic to myself than to
What do you think he did that for?
well, because I mean that was his,
The way he grew up?
that's the way he grew up, right? Like he worked for ExxonMobil for like 29 years until, he got sick, and because of the off gassing from the refinery. You know what I mean? Like, but you got to stay true to,
Old days was like that.
yeah,
Go
yeah,
to the work for the
right.
manufacturing
And
or
that's it.
whatever,
That's
get a
it. You,
paycheck,
you
have
sell
a
your soul
wife.
to the
Yeah.
to the
Have a
company.
wife, couple of kids,
Yeah,
have your house, your mortgage, go
yeah,
to work, come home, watch the TV,
right,
do some stuff. That was a definition of
right.
living.
Yeah. And I can't like, and I know that was difficult for him to understand, right?
And you couldn't change it.
And we were just constantly at each other's, like, we were just like constantly at each other's throats and
Did you
stuff.
try to
And at some
change him?
point, no, I mean, there's no change in this guy, right? But I mean, up until some, we would have these explosive fights, right? And, I realized that if it's so easy for me to cut off, you know, quote unquote friends that aren't having a positive impact in my life, that are being toxic to my mental health, and I can cut those people off so easily,
Hmm.
then I should be able to cut my dad out, because the words that he has on me have a negative impact, and they would send me into a mental tailspin. I mean, they would send me into depression for weeks. Okay. And so at one point I decided I can't, like, after this last fight, I was done. I can't have these conversations with him. I would, I wouldn't respond to some of his text messages, things like that, because I knew that it was just going to spark something. And so I thought in my head that it would be best just to keep my distance and to not, just to, he can live his life, I can live my life, but I'm not going to let what his negativity and his toxicity rub off on me, because it was negatively impacting my new family, right? My, and where I want, my happiness and where I want to be. And so I kind of made amends with it. I kind of made peace with it. And it was just this kind of like that's it. It is what it is. And then the next time that I saw him, he was on his deathbed, and he had a breathing tube in his mouth, and he did not look good. And I know that he couldn't talk, but I know that he could hear me, and because he would react and he would move his eyes and stuff like that. And I told him I told him, look, like, I know we've had our differences. I know that we've had our differences. I know that we are two very, very different people. And I know that I've said some really bad things in my life to you, but I know that, I told him, but I know that you tried your best. I know that you tried your best. I know that you tried to be the best dad that you could. And, I forgive you, basically.
That's the most important thing.
And he kind of teared up. I mean, he had the breathing tube in and all that kind of stuff. He teared up, and, I've only seen my dad, like, tear up like a couple of times in my entire life. And he's just this, like, hard ass, and, my regret is waiting so long to do that. Right. But a selfish part of myself is also regretful that when he teared up, it was almost like acceptance, right? It was almost like I took it as acceptance that he was acknowledging that fact too, and that he was agreeing, right? And we were having a conversation. And one of my biggest regrets is waiting so long that we could have an open dialogue, even though he wasn't talking back. I didn't need to hear the words back. I knew it, right? So yeah,
I can tell you,
it's a tough
one.
one.
Thank you for sharing that. That's very touching, and that's very brave of you.
It's a tough one,
that
man.
is tough, and we all went through it. I'm the same shoe. My father is still alive, but he never done anything for me. Not for me, not my brother, not my sister. He was a great dad, but he didn't even know when I graduated from high school that, are you graduating from high school? He wasn't really involved, but he's sick now. He's in the deathbed.
Yeah.
And I got him 2 nurses full time, and I went back home, visit with him, and he teared up and he asked me, I haven't done anything for you. Forgive me. And you doing all that stuff. I said, I forgive you. What I do right now is for myself, because I don't want to have a regret. I want to do what I can do, because I have 2 sons, 1 daughter, and I know how that works. And we go through rough times, but you forgive him. I forgive my dad, and I'm sure a lot of people that listen or watching, they have the same situation.
Yeah.
The best thing is to let it go. To let it go. Don't hold on grudges, because it's gonna hurt. It really is gonna hurt, because that person might be gone for years, and then you're still dealing with all that and make your life miserable.
Yeah.
Because now you have kids, you have wife, you have brother, you have sister. Like, my younger brother, one of my regrets is, why I didn't spend so much time with him while we were growing up. Now we are far apart. He's in Canada, I'm here. And I said, okay, I'm going to get him here. And now he's in your age, he's in the 40s. I said, we're going to spend as much as time we can together to make those times. We all go through this.
Yeah.
It's part of life. But what we come out of it with more knowledge, and will make us much, much, much stronger.
Right.
If we decide to listen to it.
Right.
Some people, they ignore it. They hold grudges for years.
Right.
I know people right now.
I did.
And you.
I held on to it for years.
And then one day you said, I want to go and talk.
It was off and on, man, for forever. But here's the thing, though, and I think this is something that's important, is that we also have to recognize the fact that if we don't talk about those things,
And not gonna solve.
well, not only that, but they're just gonna
Pile up.
you no, you will subconsciously repeat the process to the next generation.
I
That's
agree
the
with that.
problem.
I agree with that.
So I mean, that's kind of what this quest is about. This is what I mean,
Somebody
the
has to
whole
step in and change the generation.
that's it's what the whole journey of the learning man is to get those stories out into the world and to let others know that they're not alone, that that it is okay to talk about these things, and more importantly, like not to repeat the process. There's a I can't remember the name of the author, but he talks about like epigenetics, right? That genetically, that we know that we pass down our genes from one generation to the other, right? But of that amount that's actually passed down, it's like only like 2% of that genetic makeup is actually passed down that makes us who we are on the outside, right? What we look like, what our health is going to
Yeah.
be, all that kind of stuff, right? There's like 98% of all the scrap, right? All the scrap genetics that are out there, excuse me. Sorry, sound guy. All the genet, all that 98%. What is that? And that a lot of that, what this one author is talking about. And I'll have to send you the book, but he talks about how all that is basically memory. It's genetic memory and epigenetics that essentially is passed down. So trauma is recorded, and he has
In
like
your subconscious, yeah.
he's been studying this for many years, that trauma and is genetically is like captured within our DNA and passed down. So in other words, if we don't deal with that,
It's gonna go on.
it keeps going on.
That's what, have you heard, I talked to a couple of people and I said, why did you do that? They said, my dad used to do that.
Yeah.
This is something that is very common these days,
Mhm.
that is just inherited through the generation.
Right.
That my dad used to do that. My grandfather used to do that, and now my dad, and somebody needs, as you said, to change it.
There's got to be a better way.
It's got to be a better way, and I'm sure there is. But that's what I'm saying.
Right.
This generation, they have a lot to work with, because from the oldest school to the newest school, somebody somehow somewhere they're gonna change this,
Yeah.
because you can't say this is the way my dad used to do
Right.
and not gonna work anymore.
Right.
It's not gonna work, because we're growing. We're growing. Look at us.
Mhm.
We're growing. Our kids are gonna grow. Do you think in the next 20 years what's gonna happen?
Yeah.
I think I don't. We're gonna have flying cars.
Yeah.
I don't know, but things are happening. But as you said, it's very important to not only dig into your history and learn from it
Mhm.
and discuss it in order to build a better future.
Right.
I think that's the way we should do.
Yeah.
But I might be wrong. I don't know. But every day I'm learning from the older people, newer people, and come up with something that, okay, how can we do things better?
Right.
That has less damage,
Yeah.
emotionally, physically, whatever. And I think it's gonna happen. But
Just break the pattern.
you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
You gotta
Break the
break the pattern.
pattern and, reflect and learn from others. And I mean, that's what I think that's what we're here to do, man.
That's
It's
what the
just,
learning man is all about. What is the future of learning man?
um,
What is your goal? What is your vision? I know you can't just say, oh, but at the
yeah.
moment,
I right now I think because it's just me. I'm 10 episodes deep. And I just want to, continue capturing those stories and just, talking to other men and women, experts that are out there. Just to, better understand. It's kind of a journey, right? I'm trying to better understand myself through the stories of others.
I learned when I talk to people on my podcast and the show, believe it or not, I have learned so much from
Mhm.
other people. Actually, be honest with you, sometimes is a great therapy for me.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, I'm serious. Like I talk to a tech guy, I talk to the author, artist, talk to you, all that stuff is an amazing therapy, and the learning
Right.
is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I wish everybody could say, I want to.
Oh, yeah.
This is just talking to another person
Yeah.
in the form of audio or video, but at the end of the day, you can have that conversation outside with anybody.
Yeah.
Why we don't do that, I don't know.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But we are human.
And this is, I mean, if I'm going to be honest with you, yeah, sure. I mean, this is part of my therapy too, right? It's kind of like, I'm just trying to better understand myself. Like, and, during that same period of time, I started going to a therapist a couple years ago, and even going to a therapist is one of those things that, I mean, shit, if I would have told my dad that, he'd been like, oh, that's
Yeah,
stupid.
you seen
Men
it
don't
shrink?
talk about stuff,
Yeah.
Men don't talk about that shit.
Yeah.
You bottle that shit up
You've
and
seen
you
it
die with
shrink?
it.
Yeah.
And that's part of it, right? And so like I kind of like, especially in the Hispanic community, right? Especially in minority communities, we don't talk about our shit. We don't feel comfortable even voicing it, or we don't even feel comfortable acknowledging that that it's there, much less voicing it. And so I went on this kind of path, and I started going to therapy, and then from there it just kind of like I wanted to learn from others and capture that stuff, and you're 100% correct. I mean, it just became part of my therapy, and
It
Yeah.
helps me personally a lot, but
helps you process.
yeah, it helped me different. You're right. It helped me to process a lot of stuff much
Yeah.
easier right now. It doesn't matter what is the topic of what we're talking about, but I still believe that we all can learn from each other.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter who you are, where you're coming from, what is the color of your skin. It doesn't matter your education level. We all can learn from one another. That's the end of it.
Yep.
But thank you so much, man. I had a great conversation. And thank
Yeah.
you for opening up and talking about your dad. That means a lot to
Yeah.
me, man. I really appreciate it. I'm sure the listeners and the viewers, they learn that you can't hold on to it for a long time. You got to
Yeah.
do what you got to do. I let it go. He let it go. We all can let it go. We all can talk to our loved ones
Yeah, for
and
sure.
just tell them our true feelings. And if they don't get it, it's on them.
Yeah.
Well, we did what we had to do.
Yeah, for sure.
I
And
wish-
on that note, before we end, I really, really want to give a shout out to somebody.
Sure.
Okay. Billy Maupin. Okay. I told my buddy, he's a childhood family friend. Our families have known each other forever. Told him that I was coming over I was gonna be on his show. He was really excited, and he wanted me to give him a shout out.
Absolutely.
And
hope I meet him
and
one
I
day.
especially wanted to also tell his story too, because of the fact that so Billy has had some really difficult years. He's dealt with anxiety, he's dealt with depression, he's dealt with serious substance abuse, and recently he took it upon himself to get clean. And
Wow.
he went to rehab, got himself clean, and he most importantly he did that for his kids. He did that for his family.
Billy, I'm proud of you, buddy.
And
Keep doing it.
and it's stories like that if we don't capture them, if we don't tell them, how else are we going to impact others? So Billy, shout out to you, brother. Good job.
Good job, man. You're going to change a lot of lives. Make sure you share your stories with him, me, if you want. But that's the big thing.
Yeah,
That's the
it's
big
huge.
thing. It's huge.
Huge.
It's huge. No, good job. Good job, man. But once again, man, thank you so much for being here. I had so much fun. Always.
Yeah, man.
Always. We were
Always.
trying to do this for a long time, but we did it.
Let's do it.
We did it. We're going to do
Let's
it
continue
next
to do
time,
it.
man.
All right, brother.
Thank you.